Hi everybody, we're gonna get right into making our Easter card for this Friday. Okay, so a friend of mine asked me to do a matching envelope. So we have our Memories Keeper, We Are Memories Keeper punch board, and they have 4.5 by 5.5 size card measurements. So I went on YouTube and found someone who had better measurements for the 4.25 by 5.5. Which the size would be, you would cut your paper to 8 by 8, and then you would score your first score mark at 3.5. Okay, and then after you score your first score mark and you go all the way around, you'll have a perfect card for an A2 size card. Right now we're just scoring, rounding the edges, which is a nice feature that it's all built into that punch board. And to get started, we're going to start on the card. I just put some masking tape along the one edge because I didn't want to have any stamping go onto the back side. And we're continuing on. If you saw, I'm going to add a link, to my faith journal. And yesterday I did it using more of the, what is that called? The pigment white ink. And then coloring in, and I wanted to show you that if you don't have pigment, white ink, that you can do this by just using Versamark and embossing powder. Because usually most crafters, stampers, you probably have some embossing powder that's white. And I'm just laying out my flowers. And I'm a big believer in adding the powder as you go because it helps you to see where you're stamping and you have less likely of a chance of overstamping or stamping, one flower in with the other. It just helps you to see better. Even on black, you could see the shiny, but having the powder there just makes it so much easier. So I just do it in stages. And then once that part is done, the idea was that I'm going to be putting my sentiment in that upper right hand side. And then once that's done, I set it aside because I want to do all my stamping at once. So for the envelope, sorry, it'll come into focus here shortly. Sorry about that. I covered up the bottom. And the idea was I wanted to take the flowers on the left hand side onto that side flap and the top flap. I want to add flowers all up and down just the one side of the envelope. So it's the same method. The only thing I did do different on the envelope is I didn't powder as I went along, only because I don't know if the sun was just brighter in that moment. I was able to see all of my markings really clear, so it was easier for me to just keep going with the flow on this point and add where I could and then do all my powder at once, my embossing powder at once. And it's the same idea. You're just creating a matching pattern to what we've done on the card on the actual envelope. And what I'm doing is on the right hand side, I'm leaving space for the stamp and then for the person's name and address. Now, say if you decide that you don't want to mail this, you don't have to mail this off to anybody either. You can still put their name on it and have it be a hand-delivered envelope. It just gives it some interest and, really makes it look nice. Now, white embossing powder on black paper, you will find if you decide to start playing with it that the white powder seems to stick everywhere, even if you use powder. Here's the deal. It would stick worse if you don't use the powder. So I would definitely make sure you use your embossing buddy, powder up your paper, only because it'll create less of a hassle for you, really and truly. So what we're going to do, I've gotten my heat tool and I'm just trying to heat it up off on the side, and then we just take our time and heat up all of our flowers. And like I said, with the white embossing powder, it gets a vibrant white once it's heated up all the way through, and I always try and tilt it on an angle to make sure that I don't miss any pieces, you know, that everything got heated through all the way. So now we're doing the same thing on the card. Being careful to keep the heat tool going and moving around, just so that way, you know, it minimizes as much of the warping as we can. So now we're done with the piercing mat. We don't need that anymore. And so here we go. I just wanted to fold up the envelope here real quick so you can see, you know, what it would look like. And just whipping it off. So there you would have your matching envelope and card. And I went through and colored it just like I did with my Faith Journal page. Now I'm just taping down the flaps. And I put the card in and close it. And there you have it. Now for the sentiment on front of the card, I just wanted to emboss Easter blessings. So I'm just grabbing the stamp real quick, inking it up with Versamark as well, and then using the white embossing powder again. Now this time I just submerged it. I'm not trying to get the spoon. It gets on there. I'm good. And then we're going to grab the heating tool, being careful because it is small. Don't want to burn yourself. And just make sure once it's all done and cool, rub your hands across it and it removes that powder. So we're going to attach it to a white piece of the same shape, and then just get some foam squares and pop it up. Now once I had it up, I realized that there was open space that didn't have any dots, so all I did was finish it off by completing the dots in that section. And then I was like, you know what, I bet you we could take it up another notch. Let's add a few sequins. So that's what I'm doing here. Once I get how many I want out, I wound up just dumping them all right on a pile so I can grab them and add them. And just makes it easier. And on this one, I think I'm using, they're like a white iridescent sequin. I'm just placing them all around. And then on this one, I'm going to add it actually right in the center of the flower. I got to hold it down a little bit because of the embossing powder. It was acting like it didn't want to stick. So just a few more seconds than normal. I held it down and that was it. And there is our card. I love it. The card and envelope. And there you have a custom, beautiful gift for somebody for Easter. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really had fun making this card, and what I love about the embossing, unlike using the ink, there's no smearing. So once the embossing is heated up, you're smooth and you're good to go, and all you have to do is color. Once again, thank you guys for joining me. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you guys at our next video.